Greetings everyone, DonTheCrown here, and we finally have the new Warcry information, so I'm going to read it for you. We're going to get like a live reaction here. In Path of Exile Harvest, we're adding 4 new Warcry skills, 1 new support, and are reworking 3 existing ones. We've generally improved the options available for those who want to utilize Warcries in their builds. Today's news post reveals new skills and what to expect in terms of changes. So right off the bat, I did not expect for there to be a Warcry support, but I guess that makes sense. Although it is a little bit weird, because one of the things I really like about support gems for the most part when I first got into Path of Exile is that a single support gem could be used with a multitude of different skills, and it kind of feels like lately, especially when they add things like Second Wind, that they're adding support gems that are like very specific to one specific task, and it's almost like, okay, why is this just not baked into base skills, or why is this a thing? I guess it's just trying to eat up gem slots, if that's the strategy there. And I don't necessarily like that too much, but maybe it has some sort of like give and take that you might not want to use. So some time ago we decided that it would be good to do a balanced pass that focused on two-handed weapons, and the slower but stronger playstyle was that Legion League. While we were exploring how best to achieve this, it became clear that giving Warcry skills some long overdue improvements could be of great help. So this kind of like implies that Warcries are going to be best with two-handers. Our first step in doing this was to define for ourselves what a Warcry should be and what function it fulfills. We found that Warcries should release a shockwave that taunts enemies, apply either a buff or a debuff where its power is based on nearby enemies, and exert or power up your next few attacks with special properties. These rules can be flexible, but provide a base starting point of what Warcries should look like within the new system. We started by reworking existing Warcries to fit into this set of rules, and as we made new ones to fill in any gaps we felt were present. Okay. We also changed the mechanics of nearby enemies to care about the power of these enemies. In the old system, 5 small monsters would provide 5 times the Warcry benefit compared to a single unique boss. This felt wrong. The new system now counts magic, rare, and unique enemies proportionate to their power so that your Warcry scales more effectively with the content you're facing. Currently, this works by counting normal monsters as 1, magic monsters as 2, rares as 10, and uniques as 20. Okay. I like that, because that is simple and easy to understand, as opposed to it being some sort of strange formula overall. Now, granted, this does have like mathematical formula attached to it, but I feel like this is something that is understandable. And like rares and uniques being very powerful is really good. So Enduring Cry received a relatively minimal rework. Minimal. But we wanted to see if we could improve various aspects of this skill while we're reworking the others. It still generates endurance charges based on the power of nearby enemies, but also provides a short burst of very powerful healing. It also temporarily gives you additional resistance and physical damage reduction for a short time. Unlike other Warcries, Enduring Cry does not exert your next few attacks. Its benefits are purely defensive. I like this. I think this is pretty cool. I always liked Enduring Cry on my Hollow Palm character when I was really trying to play it safe, and it sounds like they made it even stronger as long as you can keep this Enduring Cry buff up. We'll have to see how long it lasts for, though. I'm noticing right off the bat that they are not providing us with any exact numbers here. Maybe here at the bottom, they're going to show us exactly what the numbers are looking like. But for right now, we have no exact numbers, which is a little bit annoying. Next one up is Intimidating Cry. So Intimidating Cry is, says here, previously Intimidating Cry was only obtainable through a unique item. What these are the Feral's Boots, And pretty much was whenever you like switch between two of the cat stances, it would do an intimidating cry, which I think gives you attack speed, if I recall correctly. And I would try to work that into a couple different builds. Unfortunately, auto triggering a war cry does not count as you war crying for some reason, and so you weren't getting any of the benefits from the new cluster jewels. You were also weren't seeing the berserker stuff kicking off from that, so overall it was kind of bad. In addition to it now being available as a skill gem, though, it has undergone a full rework to be a lot more punchy and exciting. Does that mean it'll be good with Hollow Palm? Its benefits are purely offensive. It achieves this by intimidating nearby enemies and exerting your next few attacks to deal double damage. It also provides a buff that lets you ignore some of the enemy's physical... So I've talked about this a lot on my stream, and I'll probably make a video about why this is the worst stat in the game. But basically, ignoring physical damage reduction is arguably horrible. As long as you're hitting above a certain amount and you don't have the physical damage reduction modifier on a map, physical damage reduction doesn't really do anything anymore. It just doesn't. And so this stat is effectively nothing. And so Intimidating Cry is pretty much going to intimidate, which you can get on awakened melee physical damage, and chance to deal double damage. If this is chance to deal double damage, this is probably pretty bad. If it's guaranteed double damage or a very high chance of double damage, it'll be okay. But I don't really see this being pretty good. If it's 100% double damage, has a chance. Obviously, you won't be using this with Paradoxica anymore, but there's probably better things for you to do besides Intimidating Cry. Very disappointed with this. And so the reason why this is really disappointing is because unlike Elemental Penetration, reducing enemies' physical damage reduction cannot go negative. And so since typically when you hit very hard, which this entire patch is supposed to be about, right? Hitting hard, enemies' armor doesn't really do jack squat in terms of percentage. And so the small amount of ignoring or reducing enemies' physical damage reduction, removes all the armor. And so this doesn't do anything for you. And the harder you hit, which is generally the slower you hit, the harder and slower you hit, the less armor effect you see in here. So I feel like this is a really crappy buff. And I really do feel like the ignoring physical damage reduction needs to be reworked or retweaked a little bit. Maybe even making it go into the negative, so it actually becomes a more multiplier as opposed to being not very good. So this is intended to be the offensive counterpart to Enduring Cry. It should work in a wide variety of builds to make your next few attacks feel really powerful. Yeah, we'll just see. I'm a little bit disappointed at this point. Ancestral Call Cry. This is a new war cry which was designed to work well specifically with strike skills. It causes your next few strikes to also target nearby enemies, similar to the Ancestral Call support. It also provides a buff based on the power of nearby enemies, which both increases your melee range as well as providing bonus armor. It's intended to be a well-rounded war cry that generally provides benefits to anyone interested in playing strike skills. So, if this gives you one additional ancestral call, that is okay. But if it's two or more, this is like a game changer for strike skills almost, and mandatory for strike skills, which could make it very, very nice. Especially if they continue to allow you to have war cry effect on cluster jewels, because even if it's just one, that could potentially allow you up to two, maybe even three additional strikes going out because of this, which pretty much makes your clear go from 0 to hero. So I'm pretty excited about this. This seems to be very nice so far. Let's see more stats about it though. Seismic Cry. We created a new category of skills known as Slam skills, and we wanted to make a Warcry that synergizes well with these skills. It causes your next few Slam skills to have an increased area of effect and more damage, which both increase with each attack until you reset the Warcry or your exerted attacks run out. It knocks enemies back and interrupts them when it taunts them. It then grants you a buff based on nearby enemy power, which reduces enemy stun threshold, making it easier to stun enemies with your hits. So since Seismic Cry seems to only work with slams, we'll have to see what this goes. I know that there are already a few like meme builders out there right now that are so excited about Seismic Cry because they are going to stun lock bosses with this, which I think is a good thing. I'm looking forward to watching people just like stun lock Cirrus or stun lock endgame content with Earthquake and other things because of Seismic Cry. I think that's going to be pretty cool. Next up, Rallying Cry. So Rallying Cry we already kind of know has been reworked. Rallying Cry has been, and it's also been given a new identity, which pretty much means to me that we've scrapped it completely. And here's something new. We're using the same name. So it traditionally has worked well in support style builds, and we designed it to provide a new way to support allies. And so pretty much what this is trying to say is that, hey, Rallying Cry was supposed to be a support skill, but then we realized that people were gaining a ton of damage from Rallying Cry, and we didn't necessarily like that, so we're going to be changing how it works. And yes, for example, my Hollow Palm build, I have 25 million DPS with Cyclone with Hollow Palm, and 5 million of that comes from Rallying Cry right now. So yes, I can understand how they want to bring it back from being an amazing damage buff. It causes nearby allies to gain a buff that grants them a percentage of your main hand weapon's damage based on the power of nearby enemies. It also exerts your next few attacks to deal more damage based on how many allies you have near you. Unlike most other Warcries, the power of the buff comes from both the power of both nearby enemies and allies. This is a rework to an existing skill to give it a new identity. This obviously seems to fit a very supportive support type role, but we wanted to do a new way to support allies. It works well with minions or to support a full party of allies. So this one's interesting because, let's be clear, this will only be used by minion players and will probably only be used by people that are using Dominating Blow, because for the most part, people don't really have a good weapon unless they're doing like that skill. And so I don't really think this is going to be all that great. I kind of feel like Rallying Cry might be deathbed now. And I kind of feel like from at least every time I've played minion skills, you almost just don't have enough buttons to actually play your character, and you don't really like, I don't really feel like adding another button to press is really a good thing. Like, okay, so I'm a skeleton necromancer and I'm like casting all these skellies, and then I am also dropping my like corpse destruction thing. I totally forget what they're called right now. And buffing my allies, and then I'm also trying to Warcry. It's like trying to juggle. Yeah, offering. Thanks. F Rallying Cry in the comments, please. Can we get some sad tears for Rallying Cry? And also remember that you can't trigger Rallying Cries or any War Cries in the same way you would trigger spells, because they are, as of like a long time ago, not counted as spells. And yeah. The only way I know that you can trigger War Cries, I believe, is from the shield, like the Golden Apple Shield, which triggers whenever you lose an endurance charge. So maybe people will do something with that, but I don't know. Next up, Infernal Cry. So this was previously known as Abyssal Cry. I guess F Abyssal Cry has been received a full rework. Dag. One of the only ways that brutality players that weren't using an explodey chest had a way to actually deal with porcupines. We aimed to keep its old feature while providing some new exciting ones to refresh its appeal. It covers enemies in ash, a debuff that scales with the power of nearby enemies. It also causes enemies that are affected by this debuff to explode with fire when they're slain. Okay. Whew. Whew. Okay, they still explode. They still explode. We're saved. It also exerts your next few attacks to trigger Combust when hitting an enemy. Combust is a triggered area of effect attack skill granted by the Infernal Cry gem. It scales with attack damage modifiers and can benefit from your supports. I could see this being potentially interesting with like Namahu's, like the balls all dropping, because each one of those, I believe, maybe counts as an attack. I could see Warcries in general actually being kind of good with that, but this could be extra interesting. We'll see what this looks like. And so I think the last thing is here, General's Cry. This is an intense new Warcry that's been designed to be very open-ended in how it can be used. It's a skill support hybrid, which melee attack skills can be linked to. This Warcry summons ghostly mirage warriors from corpses near you. These What? These ghosts use one of the linked skills once before dissipating. The number of warriors you summon is based on the total power of nearby enemies as well as the power of nearby corpses. General's Cry lets you summon your own legions of warriors to destroy your enemies using a large selection of skills. Check out these Warcries in action in the video below. Desecrate, cast on damage taken, General Cry, and your 6th link, extra 6th link or something. And then maybe you can General Cry into Rallying Cry.
Arse of innocence. What was that?
Still starting Impale Cyclone this league.
I am. Why is there an alert? There should not be any alerts right now. Thank you very much for that, dude. Do appreciate that. Yeah, I don't really know exactly when to start. There shouldn't be any alerts right now. Strange. Okay, let's watch the video. Rallying Cry looks like literally nothing's happening. I guess Herald of Purity also will use that. Ancestral Cry looks like it's getting 2. Maybe more? Yeah, look, getting stun locked. Okay, so you can see that there's a time here on the exert, and it's not very long. I didn't see any exert buff there. Oh, I don't think Infernal Cry exerts your skills. Ooh, that fire looks so cool. They didn't even show General's Warcry. In addition, they're also adding a new support gem that speeds up your Warcries in exchange for a slightly longer cooldown. They've also added a Keystone to the passive skill tree that makes Warcries instant, but causes them to share a cooldown. By default, Warcries no longer share cooldowns in order to promote builds using multiple Warcries. Let's watch this video one more time. Okay, so looks like the exert here was very long. Or is this not the exert? It's probably something else because it's 7-second cooldown. Maybe 4 seconds there. So the buff from Ancestral Cry was not as long as... Ooh, you can actually see on... Hold on, let me move over here. So we can actually see over here on the Warcry that there's like a number ticking down. And so that has to be the exert number, right? So it looks like Rallying Cry had 5. Ancestral Cry had 7. It's very... I said 8 actually. It's very strange for them to put like... I hate the UI for this. Like, wow, this is really terrible. It's like, okay, so just in case you were having a hard time tracking your buffs all the way up there at the corner, we're also putting one of them all the way over here and on your skill bar. I'm gonna see how many Intimidating Cry I gave you. 2. 2 for Intimidating Cry. Just 2. 2, and the cooldown is very long. Don't get me wrong, that looks cool. We don't know what level these guys are or how the damage from Infernal Cry actually scales. Like, if it's similar to the old Abyssal Cry, it's based off of the HP level of those monsters that you hit. Yeah, it doesn't say that this scales. So yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting. Definitely looking forward to having more information. Oh yeah, I didn't show the Call to Arms Keystone. This is basically using Warcries as instant. Warcries share their cooldown, and this is on the outside, I believe, kind of near where it's basically where Iron Grasp used to be, and they moved Iron Grasp in below the Duelist Jewel Cluster. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. We'll have to see what's going to be good. I'm kind of worried that some of these Warcries are just not going to feel very good. And in general, in Path of Exile, it doesn't feel very good to have like something that you need to press a whole bunch. This is why Warcries kind of became popular, as they are instant and on your left click. So, and like have almost no cooldown, just like Warcrying all the time. And that's because that feels good to play. I don't really like the idea of having more buttons to press in my build, especially as melee, because it's kind of like, all right, I gotta drop my totem, maybe I have to leap slam around, maybe I have to hit my molten shell, I also have my vol molten shell, have my primary skill. Oh, also don't forget that I have to switch between stand or blood stance for some skills. Oh, also don't forget now you have to, oh, also berserk's a thing as well. And now don't forget to spam your Warcry on cooldown and hit your flasks while you're at it. It's kind of like, it's a lot of buttons. A lot of buttons. Personally, I'm probably going to drop my totem and use Warcry. Oh yeah, Blood Rage. You have to make sure you activate your Blood Rage. But yeah, that's my general thoughts. If you guys want to come over and chat on the stream, I'll be live on twitch.tv/DonTheCrown. See you over there. Have a good one.